When it comes to the situation for the Palestinians that you mentioned, it's again somewhat of a comparison here with Poland. It's by no means the same situation. This is not at all what I'm saying. But if we look at it from the perspective of Hamas here, which is the political leader of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Naturally, in the West Bank, you have Fatah ruling, so over there it's a separate issue. But within Gaza, since 2006, when they threw Fatah out of Gaza, they have been ruling in the Gaza Strip. And if they look at the relations with other countries and they see Israel's relations with other countries in the Arab world, they see that they are increasingly isolated. You had the Abraham Accords that were signed in 2021. You have this normalization of more and more Arab countries in the region that are willing to either resume diplomatic relations with Israel, or for the first time initiate diplomatic relations with Israel. You had a couple of states in North Africa that have joined, a couple in the Gulf, but naturally the big prize would be Saudi Arabia, and this were where things were moving towards when this war started with this surprise attack by Hamas. When it comes to Poland during the Second World War and the decision to initiate the Warsaw Uprising, it must also be said that it took place within the framework or the context of increasing desperation. The war was not going the way that the Poles had hoped. They were hoped that they would be liberated at some point from the West, but instead you had the Red Army coming here from the East. They had initially started these uprisings in Vilnius and Lviv, and they had cooperated with the Soviet Red Army, only to later hear that their commanders had then been asked to come in for some meetings to meet with the Soviets, and they had been simply captured, and in other cases the Soviet Red Army started fighting against these units of the Polish underground. So the Poles, they felt that Warsaw was really the last chance to somehow upend the current situation. If things would have kept going as they were, then Poland would have no sovereignty and their case would have been lost. It does seem that Hamas here, in starting this war, I don't believe they have any illusions that they could defeat the Israeli army in a ground offensive for Gaza. They are hoping to catalyze the so-called Arab street, public opinion within the Arab world, which in turn is supposed to apply pressure to their governments, and in the cases where the governments are not willing to act, to topple the governments. And this is naturally what they would like to do in Egypt, because we should remember that the Muslim Brotherhood, so this fraternal organization of Hamas, was actually in power in Egypt quite recently. Although it can be debated whether they were really in power or not, because they won the presidential election. Mohamed Morsi replaced Mubarak and took power as the president after the Arab Revolution of 2011. But he quickly ran into trouble. The army has always been very powerful in Egypt. They let him run his little experiment for more than a year. But when he started trying to take away power from the army, and also he tried to really start enforcing these Islamist radical ideas into legislation and onto society, because initially during the election campaign he had downplayed those aspects of potential Muslim Brotherhood rule. The people of Egypt, because they were tired of this, together with the army, decided to well, simply strip him of power and replace him. So right now there is absolutely no benefit or interest for the Egyptian government to in any way help Hamas, this fraternal organization of the Muslim Brotherhood. But Hamas is hoping that if the plight of the Palestinians is large enough, if it can be broadcasted to the world efficiently.
Adam, alas, the clock in the corner of the studio is flashing at me that time is up, so if we may ask you to pause there and we'll pick up the story next time. There we are. I've had to interrupt Adam almost in mid-sentence, but fear not, if you join us next time, as we hope you will, we'll continue the story. In the meantime, thank you for watching Poland Daily History.